What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video, I'm going to be updating my top 36 Week 12 running back rankings. If you guys enjoyed the video, smash that like button, subscribe, but let's just dive right into it here. We're going to start off in Tier 1, not going to nitpick the order of these top guys a ton. If you're in a normal size league, they're obviously going to be locked in your lineup. These are your studs. We're going to go Devon Achane number 1. Just has been an absolute monster with Tua at quarterback. Saquon going up against the Rams. I believe he's the running back 1 in points per game. Or actually, I think that's Joe Mixon, who's right after him here as the running back 3. CMC going up against the Packers. Hasn't had the greatest start fantasy-wise, but the usage has been there. Decent workload on the ground. Solid involvement through the air. I do think he's just going to get better and better as he gets more kind of settled in coming back from his injury. Then I have Kenneth Walker going up against the Cardinals. I think Walker might be like the most underrated running back at this point. He is firmly up there, close in points per game with these other guys, not necessarily getting the same respect. Jahmyr Gibbs going up against the Colts, just a super consistent option every single week, pretty much regardless of game script. And then Derrick Henry here as my running back 7. It might seem low. It's just such a stacked running back tier. He is the worst matchup by far against the Chargers. They're allowing the third fewest points per game to the running back position. But unless you're in like a 2-4-man league, he's obviously going to be a starter for you. Now looking at tier 2, going to start off this tier with Josh Jacobs. Really started to put it together over the last few weeks. 20 plus points in 3 of his last 4 games. Then we have Kyren Williams going up against the Eagles. Kind of the opposite trajectory. Really strong start to the season. The last few weeks have not been great. 3 straight under 12 PPR points. He's drawing a tough matchup here against the Eagles. They're allowing the 5th fewest points per game to the running back position. The big problem for Kyren is he is just not getting into the end zone. 3 straight games with no touchdowns. I think he'll be fine. The usage is going to be there. They've still not really given Blake Corum much run at all. You would think maybe that like the lack of production would open some things up. That's not been the case. They just continue to go to the well with Kyren Williams as their workhorse running back. After Kyren, going to go with JT going up against the Lions. It's not a good matchup. They're allowing the 4th fewest points per game to the running back position, but I still think the workload will be solid. We know JT is very talented. He's my running back 10. In that same matchup, we have David Montgomery going up against the Colts, coming off his best fantasy game in Week 11. I do think game script-wise, this could definitely be a nice spot for Montgomery with the Lions as decent favorites. Then going to go with James Conner going up against the Seahawks. Has been a super reliable option, 14-plus points in 8 of his 10 games. I think coming into the season, the concern with James Conner was he might start off as the clear-cut starter, but if this Cardinals team is struggling, the record's not great, would they make the shift to Trey Benson or at least force like a really strong committee with Benson being their day 2 pick, potential running back 1 of the future? But I think we're in a great spot here with James Conner where the Cardinals look good. Looks like they're, definitely going to be competing to be in the playoffs. And so James Conner's producing. I expect them to continue to go to the well with him as their running back 1. And then the last guy in this tier is going to be Tyrone Tracy going up against the Buccaneers. I like the matchup here. They're allowing the 6th most points per game to the running back position. In his 6 starts, he's averaging 14.9. You're just hoping the Tommy DeVito quarterback switch doesn't just completely tank this offense, I guess more than it had already been tanked at this point. So Tyrone Tracy wrapping up tier 2. Now looking at tier 3, made a few adjustments in here. I moved B-Rob up to my running back 14. It's just a really strong matchup. 3rd most points per game allowed to the running back position. I also think game script wise, this is a really good spot here against a pretty rough Cowboys team. Then I have Aaron Jones going up against the Bears. He's had a very similar problem to Kyren Williams where he has just not gotten into the end zone. The usage has been fine. He's going to be involved as a pass catcher. You do have Cam Akers kind of working his way in here, but Aaron Jones still the clear-cut running back 1. Just needs to get some touchdown luck and get into the end zone. And then the last guy in this tier is going to be J.K. Dobbins. I did move him down a couple of spots. It's not the best matchup. He is the running back 14 in points per game, but the Ravens have allowed the 3rd fewest rushing yards. I do think Dobbins is live to get into the end zone. I think the Chargers can put up points. But the way running backs have been able to produce against the Ravens has been through the air. And Dobbins, whether it's his skill set or just the way the Chargers run their offense, he's not overly involved as a pass catcher. So I don't really expect him to be able to take advantage of that. So he's my running back 16 to close out tier 3. Now, starting off tier 4, we're going to go with Ramondre Stevenson going up against the Dolphins. He has not been a super efficient option at the running back position, but he is definitely getting force fed 20 or more carries in 3 of his last 4 games. Also, not a super scary matchup here against the Dolphins. Then I have DeAndre Swift going up against the Vikings. I think I dropped him at least a spot or 2 here. First off, it's a bad matchup against the Vikings. They are bottom 2 in points per game allowed. He's also been limited with a groin injury. I believe he was finally a limited participant on Thursday. I guess there's no guarantee he plays. Also, if he does play, is his usage going to be somewhat limited? We also saw a little bit more of Roschon Johnson in week 11. So if we're already seeing more Roschon and he's coming in injured, maybe the workload does take a hit. Then I have Chuba Hubbard going up against the Chiefs. This is not an anti-Chuba Hubbard ranking. This is a really tough matchup, if we're being honest here. The fewest points per game allowed to the running back position. It's not great, especially on an offense that, obviously isn't going to be great here with the Panthers. So Chuba's looked really good. He's been involved as a pass catcher, has had as much touchdown upside as you can have on a bad offense. But this is just a really tough spot for him here against the Chiefs. Then I'm going to go with Tony Pollard going up against the Texans. I'm assuming that Tajay Spears is not going to play this week, dealing with a concussion, which makes me feel very good about Tony Pollard as the workhorse. Not a great matchup here, though, against the Texans. Then I have the back-to-back Bucs running backs, Bucky Irving, Rachaad White going up against the Giants. I've really gone back and forth with these two. I think I started off the week with Rachaad White as my top guy between these two because in their games where they had both, had solid usage, he was averaging more points per game. But I think maybe with the bye week, we get a little bit of a shakeup because I think Bucky Irving has looked really good. Maybe coming out of the bye, you do some self-scouting. They go with him as their number one. Either way, I'm like switching between running back 21 and running back 22. It's nothing crazy. It's been pretty close to a 50-50 split. Both guys on the ground, both guys involved as pass catchers, both filtering in near the goal line. Their usage has been very, very similar. So I think, they're both playable in this mid to back end running back 2 range. And now shifting into tier 5, going to start off this tier with Javonte Williams going up against the Raiders. Kind of a odd season arc here for Javonte. You start off early on, you're expecting him to be the starter. Nice year 2, coming off the ACL. And you have like Jaleel McLaughlin leading this backfield week 1. Then Javonte kind of works his way into the starting spot, but isn't necessarily wowing anyone, not great. Then you have Audric Estime completely take over, like phase out Javonte. And then right when you think he's dead in the water and Estime is going to run away with his backfield, he goes out, goes 9 for 59 on a touchdown, 4 for 28 as a pass catcher, and completely leads the unit. It's a nice matchup here. The Raiders have allowed the 7th most points per game to the running back position. The problem is it just seems very unstable where like at any point Sean Payton could just pull out the rug and Javonte is no longer the running back 1. So it's this weird spot where if we knew Javonte would have the usage like he did last week, I would have him in tier 4. We just don't really have that insurance at this point. Another guy who's pretty tough to rank, Kareem Hunt going up against the Panthers. Now, as you can see, this is assuming that Isaiah Pacheco does play. I have both of them within this tier. And it's just this weird spot because it's a great matchup. The Panthers have allowed the most points per game to the running back spot, but we just do not know what the usage is going to look like. Are they going to really kind of ease Isaiah Pacheco in, or is this just going to be a straight up 50-50 split right out of the gate? I don't know. So that's kind of the concerning part here. Pacheco's been limited, but it does seem like he is leaning towards playing this week. I would expect to see him out there. I just think it's tough to know what we're expecting with the split. There are obviously certain situations where the running back really kind of gets eased in. There are others like a CMC example where the running back just takes over that running back 1 spot. I don't think it's going to be that extreme because I am expecting some sort of committee rest of season, but I don't know if this is going to be the Isaiah Pacheco leading a 55-45 with the valuable opportunities, or if it's Isaiah Pacheco getting 30% of the snaps and Kareem Hunt is still the better play. So I would favor Hunt this week, but like you can see here, tier 5, they're in a very similar spot. Sandwiched between them, I have Austin Eckler going up against the Cowboys. I guess another guy who's in somewhat of a split here, in a good matchup. He's put up 17 plus in his last 3 games. Great receiving game in week 11. Not sure they're going to need that here against the Cowboys just based on the game script, but Eckler, nice fringe RB2 option. And then the last guy in this tier is going to be Rico Dowdle going up against the Commanders. The usage has been solid. He does look like the running back one, 15 opportunities in week 11. The problem is the offense is just so rough that even with the usage, like there's no guarantee it's leading to decent production. I think he's kind of in like this weird spot where he's definitely better than the tier 6 options, but should he necessarily be up here with Hunt, Eckler, Pacheco? Like maybe not. I actually think he's somewhat similar to this guy leading tier 6, where it's like, do I want to make this separate tier just for these two? We're going to start off tier 6 with Amir Abdullah going up against the Broncos. Now, this is obviously assuming that both Zamir White and Alexander Madison do not play. It definitely seems like it is trending in that direction. I would say I do view Rico, I guess, a step ahead of Amir Abdullah. Based on the depth chart, you would expect Abdullah to step up and be the running back one, but you have like a 31-year-old running back, never leading a backfield in the NFL. I think we're probably going to see some sort of split between him and Dylan Laube, their rookie pick. Neither guy has really been all that impressive this season. I think Laube came in for like a carry or two, fumbled, and then really has not played much since. So it's a weird spot. If you're super desperate, Abdullah could be the play. I guess we'll just have to, wait and see. Then my running back 29 is going to be Roschon Johnson going up against the Vikings. It's a bad matchup, but he has kind of worked his way in on the goal line. And like I said with DeAndre Swift, his injury could kind of open some things up. Then I have Audric Estime going up against the Raiders. Nice matchup, allowing the 7th most points per game, but it doesn't look like he is the running back one anymore. It was a short-lived week 10, and looks like he's back to being a depth play. After Estime, I do have Dylan Laube, who I talked about with Abdullah. We're kind of just getting into like this handcuff territory. So if I can play like a rookie with some receiving upside who could work his way in, I'd probably prefer that over a handcuff than just running through these handcuffs here. Justice Hill, I guess, isn't a pure handcuff. You're just hoping for a big receiving game. Could happen in a somewhat trailing game script against the Chargers if that's the way this game goes. Trey Benson, Cam Akers, Charbonnet, Devin Singletary, just guys who are going to be working in as the running back twos. But that is going to wrap it up for my top 36. Any questions, drop them down below. If you enjoyed, hit that like button. Thank you all for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one.